I'm here to talk about some college football, mate. The Georgia Bulldogs this Saturday, they will host the Alabama Crimson Tide, yeah, in a top 20 showdown. This should be a really good game, mate, on paper anyways. Alabama has really disappointed ever since they opened their season on the road against a 2-10 at the time Florida State Seminoles. Now, granted, Florida State did a tremendous job in hiring new coaches like Gus Malzahn to run the offense as the offensive coordinator. They went and got Tony White from Nebraska as the defensive coordinator. Terrence Knighton from the NFL, he's the defensive line coach, mate. And Florida State is clearly really good. They're 3-0. They're number 8 in the country and all that other stuff. But Alabama, my goodness, them boys have been embarrassing when they played Florida State. Now, granted, they did blow out Louisiana Monroe, and then they beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin can't even beat Maryland. So, I don't know what they did in that game as far as proving anything or earning respect. When it comes to respect, my goodness, I respect the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart, mate. In the 2020s decade, the Georgia Bulldogs have owned this decade, mate. They've won the national title twice. They've won the SEC twice. They've done everything that they needed to do to solidify themselves as a really good powerhouse program in today's college football, yeah. And Kirby Smart has won over 80% of his games. But one thing he has failed to do is have a winning record against the Alabama Crimson Tide, mate. Whether it be Nick Saban, the GOAT of college football, or Kalen DeBoer, who has almost been a real laughingstock and embarrassment for the Alabama Crimson Tide, mate. And my good buddy Genius Coverage, mate, he did say that the Florida State Seminoles would beat them by 2 touchdowns, and everybody, myself included, thought that the man was a fool of a thing to say such a thing, especially when Tommy Castellanos ran his mouth. Now, granted, when I ran my mouth before a fight, before a battle, I always backed it up and knocked the other guy out in the first or second round and embarrassed the other guy. By the way, your wife's in me DMs. Shout out to Conor McGregor, the real one, yeah. But my point is, I don't see this going very good for Alabama now. The only problem that I saw with Georgia was their secondary, when they faced Tennessee, and a UCLA quarterback reject and Aguilar, Joey Aguilar, Now, granted, I think it's Nico Imiala, whatever his name is, man plays. I'm not gonna call him a fool of a thing. I respect him as an athlete, but he plays like a fool of a thing, leading his team to a 0-3 start, getting his head coach fired from the Bruins, against nobodies. But my thing is, I have to pick the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Georgia's a more physical team, and even though I think Georgia's secondary is very overrated, and here's the thing. I'm not going to say that overrated what I just did. I'm going to say that I do think that Joey Aguilar is a good quarterback, mate, but he was not a Heisman Trophy candidate, so I don't know anything about him other than the fact that he lit up everybody he's played, including the Georgia Bulldogs, mate. He didn't beat Georgia. Granted, it was in Tennessee's house, and the game that he had, Georgia has with Alabama is going to be at Georgia's house. And that's a force, A lot of people talk about, myself included, how Alabama owns the Georgia Bulldogs, yeah. They have not played in Athens in 10 years, back when Eddie Jackson was playing for the Alabama Crimson Tide and Kirby Smart was a defensive coordinator for them boys. Roll Tide, mate, much respect to the Alabama football program. But this year, I respect them as much as I want. They are not going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia is going to have Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, mate. They're going to have a really good defensive line. And the difference in this game will be the ability for Georgia's running game to run the football, mate. Florida State, in my opinion, is still a little bit unproven. I honestly don't understand why they're in the top 10. They won't be tested until they play the Miami Hurricanes, mate, who trashed my Irish. But then again, everybody's beating my Irish. They've become a fools of a thing, They'd be looking to make a bowl game with that defense, that secondary that they have, that garbage can secondary. But it is what it is. So I have to go with the Bulldogs. I think the difference would be the ability to run the ball, something that Alabama cannot do against a really high quality defense like Florida State, and they could not stop the run. Georgia is really good at running the football. Tennessee's defensive front is very good. It's very physical up front, and they literally scored on one touchdown offensive drive. Now, granted, they ran the ball a lot throughout the game, but one drive in particular, they smashed them in the face and slapped the little noses off the defensive front, like this. And then they scored a touchdown on simply running the ball down their throat, mate. So, I have Georgia, and to be honest, I think it might get a little ugly, mate. Give me Georgia 41, Alabama 24. I don't think Alabama's offensive line is up for the chance to run the ball, and I don't think Bama's defensive front will stop nobody from running the ball in that game. Give me Georgia big, mate.